everybody. It is Sunday, June 25th, 2023. I almost forgot the date. I have it written down. That's pretty bad. And you are listening to episode 18? Almost got that wrong, too. 18 of Black Box Signal, a podcast with two dudes who just rant and complain about everything, and occasionally we talk about video games. I'm your host, Chase Johnson, and always with my co-host, Brandon Gaston. What's going on?
Hey yo!
Weird energy today, but it's a weird day. It's been an off week, to say the least. My daughter, I don't know if I said this last week. Did I say that she tested for a new belt? She got a new belt in karate.
Maybe I remember you saying.
Maybe I did say that last week on the podcast. Okay, I'm trying to remember all my stories. Yeah, it's kind of been a back to normal week, I guess, after like the tournament and the belt test, and then like Father's Day and my birthday. Then this week was just kind of back to normal, except for work. We won't talk about work.
Yeah, work tried to turn you into an NPC, bro.
Dude, okay, that is. We don't usually talk about my work that much on this podcast, our work, because I don't usually like to disclose that because that can get dicey. But I will say this. In very minimal terms, he is not lying. We launched something new at our company, and because me and my department have been the ones using it the longest and testing it the longest, they put a question mark above my head, and it literally looks like a WoW question mark, like a quest giving question mark. It looks identical to it. It's gold, like the color and everything, to get help. So that's why we had to bring that up. That was the first thing I thought of too. I was like, I am literally a WoW quest giver.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like we were chatting a little bit before we started up. That like once I saw that, I could not unsee it. I was just like,
I was like, yep. Oh, awesome. This is me. This is my life. This is my life for the next couple weeks.
You love video games so much they made you a character.
Oh God. Yeah, what a nightmare. Anyway, other than outside of work, what have you been getting into?
Well, exciting news. I took my two kids to go see the new Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie yesterday. I know I'm about a month late now since it came out at the start of the month.
I still haven't seen it yet, and we really want to see it. But
totally worth it. For one thing, I didn't realize how long that movie was. It's like a little over 2 hours, but oh, dude.
The first one was actually pretty lengthy.
10 out of 10. Great. I recommend it to anybody. I won't give anything away because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it is, dude, it's so good. Like they build on the whole like wonky, weird Spider-Man characters from different universes, like, and it goes even bigger than the previous movie with like Spider Pig and stuff, dude. Oh, it's hilarious. I absolutely loved it.
Spider Noir back. That's what I want to know. Is Spider Noir back?
So I was kind of worried because you get introduced to a lot of new Spider-Man characters, but yes, the older ones do make a partial comeback during the movie, so you will see them.
That makes me happy.
The music still 10 out of 10. Fantastic. That's what I really enjoyed a lot about the first movie, was it really had that cool, like they really incorporated music as a big part of it. And that still definitely rings true in this one. So yeah, I recommend it to anybody. Like they are killing it with these movies.
Nice. Yeah, Violet's been really wanting to see that, but our family movie night lately, she has been rotating between, I think I might have said this on stream, she keeps rotating between Encanto, Brave, Coco. I think that's it right now. All great movies.
Oh, man.
But we have watched them probably every week since January, rotating between those three. So
have you guys watched Kubo and the Two Strings with her?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, have you seen that movie?
No.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah?
It's stop animation, so it's just like how Nightmare Before Christmas is. So they look kind of like they're made out of clay, and it's stop
Okay.
animation, and it's very Japanese themed, but it's super good. I watched it with the kids again the other day, and I'm just like, God, I've forgotten how awesome this movie is. It's so good. I think she would probably like that.
Dustin says in the chat, I gotta introduce her to Treasure Planet. I'm like, yep, okay, definitely gotta do Treasure Planet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, well, I guess with that, we finally actually got into some decent games this week, so why don't we go ahead and get into that?
Oh yes, sir.
Still no transition because I'm terrible. I'll let you get into it first. Kind of catching up again with Diablo 4.
Yes,
I
sir.
saw that. Did you finished it? Finished the
Um,
campaign anyway?
so yes, I did finally finish the story campaign the other day. It's super good. I won't spoil any of that for anybody. It's honestly, out of all the stories from the other previous Diablo games, I think they really slammed it out of the park. It's just super interesting. A lot of the characters, how they're all connected and stuff is just phenomenal to begin with. Um, graphically wise, I know people were complaining about D3 being like too dark or whatever. So then they tried to brighten it up a little bit with this one, and like I
Other
guess
way
people
around.
were was the other way
It was
around?
D3 that was really people said was cartoony.
Yeah.
So they tried to go this
Either
way.
way, it looks good.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Like even when you're just in the regular like top down kind of dungeon crawler view, and it's the camera zoomed out, it still looks great. But you really see the graphics shine like during like the cutscenes, especially like the full CGI
Well,
cutscenes,
even
dude.
I mean, but
So good.
Blizzard has always been like amazing with freaking cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like even back in the day, like I remember watching the first like Warcraft cinematics and stuff, and they were like
Yes.
super ahead of their time.
Mm-hmm.
As far as that goes, so that does
Yeah.
not surprise me one bit.
The like you really get to see it. Like, so this is the only spoiler I'll give is like, and it's not really a spoiler, but periodically throughout the story you'll run into these things. They're Lilith's blood petals, and like when you click on them, it almost always does like a full cinematic cutscene, and it's so visually stunning. Like Lilith just looks amazing. For one, let me just throw that out there. Like her design is just, dude, chef's kiss. It's so good. She's got like two different colored eyes and just, dude, like full on just looks amazing. Um, gameplays wise, I mean, it's your dungeon crawler, dude. It's the classic Diablo. You're beating the shit out of stuff, trying to get gear and stuff. Still definitely there. I mean, they changed a lot of stuff, so I did end up streaming it last week for a little while, and showed off one of my characters. So it's funny because I originally started with the rogue and was really into that. And classic me, I'm like, well, I'll just try out a necromancer for a little bit just to see what it's like. And now that's my main character. Like I literally like that scene from Toy Story. I like held my rogue up and was just like, I don't want to play with you anymore. And just threw it aside, dude. Like, and I tried to go back and play it some more. And I'm just like, you know, it'd be way more fun than this. I was just playing my necromancer because it just
Right.
melt stuff, dude. It feels so good watching your minions go out and you just blow up a bunch of corpses and just watch everything just like freaking disintegrate into nothingness pretty much.
Right.
So that's been a lot of fun. Um so yeah, so now that I've completed like the main campaign, the only thing left I have now is so like basically in the beginning you can choose between world tier 1 and 2 for difficulty. And then in order to lock tier 3, once you beat the story, you have to do this thing called the capstone dungeon. And so when you hover over it, it says level 50 plus. And I'm not 50 just yet. I'm 49 now. So I've been kind of biding my time, even though I'm pretty sure I can probably go complete it. So I've just been like going around doing like cleanup, like side quests, uncovering the map, trying to pick up statues of Lilith when you can find them. So those are cool. They added those in. They have these random statues of Lilith around that if you take the time to look for them, when you activate it, it gives you a permanent stat boost to supposedly all of your characters. Doesn't matter, account wide. So that's pretty cool. And now they have these things. They're called. I always want to call them just like castles for some reason, but essentially it's like a town that's been overtaken by enemies. You go in there, fight all that stuff, and then once you complete everything, you pray at the shrine, and it cleanses the area, and then it becomes like a town for you. So you get like a warp point, usually some shops, and then you get guaranteed at least one dungeon unlocked to it because all of them have at least one dungeon linked to them that you can only access once you've cleared that area. So those have been kind of cool, and they're usually pretty challenging. So we've been having a lot of fun doing that. I've been playing a lot with like friends online, and then I've been doing a lot of like what we would consider couch co-op.
Right.
The TV behind me, you can't see it because it's blurred out, but we have my girlfriend and her son's Xbox hooks up to it. So they'll both play on that TV. I'll be here on my setup, and we'll just get like a 3-person like brawl going, fighting stuff. And that's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy just, even if it's just me and her, just going ham on some enemies. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
So yeah, I would recommend it to anybody. Like it's so good. It's got me hooked. And the worst part is it's giving me that shit that I hated about, like, hate and loved about WoW. It's like, I'm that person that like, I can't just play the game and enjoy it. It's like, nope. I have to sit here while I'm at work and listen to 20 videos about different builds and what's good about this and what's good
you
about.
Start getting obsessed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Freaking, I hate it, dude.
Yeah.
I hate it because that's like, how my brain is.
It was like this time when Elden Ring came out last year. Like,
yep, same thing.
Super hooked on the builds and everything.
Oh my God. It's like, I'm not trying to spoil the game for myself. And then my brain's like, you're absolutely going to spoil it because you have to be the best. And I'm like, you're right, brain. I do have to be the best.
Right. I do have to break this game.
Yeah, it's fucking cursed, dude. Ugh.
Speaking of Elden Ring, kind of going into that tangent a little bit. Now, I didn't play all this demo because it kicked my ass because I'm terrible at these types of games. And I'm not in the right headspace for it right now, but I still wanted to check it out. I played the first like little like opening. It's a 2-hour long demo, and I played like the first hour. I played up until like the first major boss. But I played the first chunk of the Lies of P demo.
Oh, nice.
Which is available on PlayStation right now. I think it's actually available everywhere right now. So you can go download it like after this podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, you might get farther than I did because So I beat Dark Souls 1, took me forever. Never played 1, 2, or never played 2 or 3. Played Bloodborne. Played the most of Sekiro and Elden Ring. And then I played probably like Demon's Souls is probably the third most that I've played other than Dark Souls. So I'm not necessarily the best at these games. This definitely gives me Bloodborne vibes, way more Bloodborne vibes.
Nice. Bloodborne's my favorite in that their catalog. So
yeah. At the beginning, you can pick either to have it has 3 different paths. I think it's Path of the Cricket, Path of the Bastard, and Path of something else. And basically it equates to balance, dex, or strength. So it kind of gives you like a base choice. I don't know if you're going to have more in the full game, but it kind of gives you a base profile to go off of. If you pick balance, you get like a big like scimitar looking sword. If you pick the strength one, you get like a big, it looks like a claymore, I believe. But I went with dex and you get a rapier.
Nice.
So, and it changes how you fight too, because obviously you're fighting a little bit more like, if you have a rapier, it's a lot more like thrusts and jumping in and backing out. So like you're heavy in that one. Like I tried it with the balanced one too. The heavy attack on that one is just like a big like cyclone swing. Heavy attack with the rapier does like two quick jabs, jumps back, and then jumps back in again. Thrusts again. So it kind of changes, like it gives you that like the rhythm that those Souls games are known for. Should say that this is not a From game. This is inspired by that. It's not made by the same developers. It's
Sure.
just they wanted to make that style of game. Um, Same sort of concept. You know, you rest at stargazers, and when you rest, all the enemies come back. You are
Okay.
collecting ergo or ergo instead of souls. So
Okay.
it's other than that, like pretty much plays like it's a Souls game. You know, you got your dodge, you can parry, you can, you know, it's what I think it is the one thing I will say that I've always had a problem with all the Souls games is you know me, story.
Hmm.
Those games have never been known for their story, which is fine. I mean, they have good stories in them. I'm not saying that they don't, but that's not like the thing that they're like famous for. They're famous for being hard and having crazy gameplay. Like that's what they're known for in the builds and stuff like that.
So to be fair, I could, I would agree with you partially on that. But here's the main thing: most of the story in those games is lore based, so it's like
Right.
you have to physically read text, which I know a lot of people don't like to do. So you miss a lot of the actual real storytelling and stuff, which is where those games shine at. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, but with this game, I think because of the backdrop of it being like a weird, like alternate take of Pinocchio,
Hmm.
um, that has me intrigued just enough to where it's like I want to see what's going on. Like, I know there's all these like they keep calling them like puppets, like, um,
Hmm.
they're like basically like they've ran amok. So like all the things that you're fighting are like kind of toy based, like the monsters,
Okay.
but like when you like there's a couple of them that look like they're like nutcracker soldiers, but when you stab them, they make a clanking noise, but they still bleed.
Okay.
So it's making me think like the main character, which I'm assuming is Pinocchio. Because
Hmm.
they don't say what his name is, but at the beginning, a blue butterfly lands on him, which I believe is like a callback to the blue fairy from Pinocchio.
Hmm.
And says, "Arise, Geppetto's puppet." So I'm
Hmm.
assuming it's Pinocchio. Well, we'd have to assume that, but they don't come out actually say, "Hey, Pinocchio." But he has a metal arm, and then is also human. So I'm wondering if like all like the creatures that you're fighting in this world are like part machine but part human, and they're like basically like little fucked up experiments. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right.
I don't know yet. I haven't gotten that far in it. It's only a demo, but it just made me start to theorize a little bit, um, about where the story is going. Where's Geppetto in this? Because initially I thought Geppetto was a villain, could be a villain, but they don't really say. So maybe that was just me making that up in my head. But
No, I definitely thought the same thing. Like that made me generally curious. Was like, so are you looking for Geppetto because he's a good guy? Are you looking for Geppetto because he's a bad guy? Like, yeah, that really
right,
has me intrigued.
yeah, and yeah, it takes place. The place is called Krat, which forgive me if I'm totally wrong, but like, where was did Pinocchio originate actually in Germany? Because I think a lot of people say Italy, but wasn't it actually Germany? Because Krat sounds
The,
like super German or Eastern European. It doesn't sound Italian. Um,
right.
so
I'm not sure to be honest with
that's
you.
the name of the city that you're in, or the area, the world that you're in is called Krat. Um, Krat. Um, so yeah. Um,
Interesting.
Yeah, but I got that on pre-order. I've got that paid off, so I'll be picking that up when it comes out and giving it a shot. Even though I tend to hate these style of games, except for outside of Elden Ring. I tend to like not have. I respect them from afar, but like usually like if another Dark Souls came out tomorrow, I probably wouldn't pick it up. But like this just is just interesting enough that I'm like I want to check this out. So
Sure.
um and then the next thing is I've actually picked up, and I didn't get too much farther than where it is in the demo, unfortunately. I'm gonna hopefully play more tonight, and possibly stream it. We'll see. Um, but I've been playing more Final Fantasy 16. Played a little bit farther past the demo. Um, I guess we can go a little bit into the story because we can go a little bit past the demo. Uh, um, let's see, where did we kind of leave off last week? We left off with like the icons and all that. So basically,
Uh-huh.
there's a time jump, and now like, you know, you're basically a branded slave because anybody that uses magic in this world without the use of a crystal or who isn't blessed by an icon, you're kind of viewed as like subhuman and are enslaved. And now because of the events of the prologue, with like your kingdom kind of being like overthrown and usurped, you end up being like a branded soldier for the empire. And I cannot pronounce any of the names right now. I can't remember any of them, but there's one that starts with an S, and that's who you're subject to. And you kind of break free and are getting ready to join this like resistance group, from what I understand, so far. And I met
Okay.
Sid for the first time, who I read is like kind of like the breakout character in this game.
Uh,
Everybody
that's what I've
really
been
loves
seeing
him in
on
this game.
Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I've been
so
seeing on Twitter.
he's kind of the leader of the resistance group because like in certain societies, I guess it depends on, like, for instance, in your original republic, the person who's blessed to be the dominant, to be able to summon the icon, they are destined to become the ruler of that land. In the Iron
Okay.
Kingdom, they're actually viewed as something super unholy and are enslaved. So they're like dragged to battle. And like, so depending on the kingdom that you're in, like, either way, it just seems like the dominants are always used as a tool for war. They're never used, like, they're never like allowed to just live their lives. So I can kind of already see where the story's going, that I think it's like this like little resistance group. It's like a lot of people who are like slaves that have fled, Brandon, that people that have fled, people who are like icons who are unknown, who didn't know about it, who have fled,
Hmm.
and they're kind of like forming this resistance because obviously this society, all these kingdoms use these people. um
Yeah,
so
they're being subjugated, and nobody likes that.
right, right. And they've been doing it for so long that like people just don't even blink an eye to it. They said, like, you read in the lore, it's like, oh yeah, this has just been going on for like centuries, to where people don't even like blink an eye to it. And they show a
Yeah.
little bit in the beginning when Clive is in the demo. This goes back to the demo, so it's not a big spoiler, where he runs into a branded for the first time, and one of the guys is like, bow, you idiot, you insolent swine. And he's like, no, trust me, it's fine. And then the guy's like, oh no, he's even lucky to even be breathing the same air as you, to even be in your presence and stuff like that. Like, that's how far they look down on people that can use magic
Yeah.
without, like, they literally view them as like subhuman. So it's really interesting. Like, they do lay on the Game of Thrones really fucking thick at the beginning. Like, I've never even seen Game
Hmm.
of Thrones, so I don't mind it. But I've seen the criticism of people that have seen Game of Thrones. They're like, wow, they are just like literally lifting like warring kingdoms. The main character might as well be Jon Snow. Like, but
Mm.
the interesting twist is the subjugation of all like the magic people. So that's where the interesting part of the story is. I could give a shit less right now about the warring kingdoms. I give a shit about how all these warring kingdoms are treating these people. And now we're starting to see this kind of like, it's not really a resistance movement, but it's, at least so far, they're just kind of like, they're living in a part of the map that's taken over by this thing called blight. And it's infecting the kingdom slowly, all the kingdoms slowly from the north. I'm sure that sounds a lot like Game of Thrones. But they're people that live, they basically, all the branded and stuff, they found like an outpost out there. So basically, where a place where no one would go, so no one would think to look. um so I don't know if they're necessarily fighting it, or if they're just kind of scrapping around and like stealing stuff to survive. I guess I'll find out tonight when I play more. I'm getting ready to kind of get like my first mission from Sid. um so but yeah,
Hell yeah.
I'm really digging it so far. The combat's really fun. It's super Devil May Cry. I would say, like, that's how it feels. I'm really enjoying it, and yeah, it's been a great time. You need to pick it up. I know you've been itching to play that too, but you've been playing Diablo. But
Mm.
yeah,
Mm. I'll play it at some point. It's Final
yeah.
Fantasy. There's
A
no way
lot
I'm
of people,
gonna
I've seen a lot
not.
of complaints that like it's not RPG enough because like there's no party control in this game whatsoever. Like, zilch. The only gear in this game I've noticed is your weapons, bracers, and like belts. That's it. And so far the weapons don't really do anything other than like they're just like, this one does more attack. Like, and you do have like abilities that you can learn, but it's just on Clive. So it's truly more of a character action game now. They've kind of
Mm.
fully gone in that direction, which I've seen some people complain that they didn't like that because they're like, "Oh, where's my RPG-ness?" And I'm like, at the same time, I'm just kind of like, if it's a good game, it's a good game, like good story. Like Zelda, a lot of people consider Zelda an RPG, but on the flip side, I'm like, it's kind of not. It's kind of also a character action game. It's also more of your action adventure game because you're not controlling a party. Um, but yeah, I can't say enough about the game so far. I'm really enjoying it. I'm still super early on, so we'll see. But yeah, I get all I want to do actually after this podcast is like play more of it. That's my plan. Um,
Yeah, that I mean that's kind of disheartening, but at the same time not. Like I get that because like for one thing, like the Zelda thing you brought up, I never understood how anybody ever says that's an RPG. That is not an RPG. There's no experience, there's no leveling up, there's no stats, no none of that. That's like the fundamental basis to make an RPG. So yeah, I would agree there.
I would
It's more of
say
like you
like
said, it's more of like an action game
I
than
would say
anything.
like it's more of akin to like a God of War. Like you're just leveling up how you're just leveling up Kratos, you're just leveling up Clive and his abilities. So it's
Hmm.
more that. Do you have other like AI members with you at times? Yes, but you have zero control over them. And over their gear, over what they do, nothing. So it's all based on you. But yeah, I enjoy the combat too. It also has parries, dodging, light attacks, heavy attacks, all that stuff. Um, so that I think that's what makes it enjoyable is like, okay, well, if you move away from the RPG elements, is the gameplay still fun? And if the gameplay is
Right.
still fun, then I'm cool with it. And I mean,
Yeah.
look at Final Fantasy 7 and even 15 is even more so. 7 kind of 15 really dabbled in like you had very minimal control over the other party members. You
Hmm.
pretty much played as Noctis the whole time. 7 kind of let you control all the party members still, but you were having to bounce between them and
Yeah.
command them and then still kind of control one. This is straight, like I said, just straight up. You're controlling one person. It's God of War. Like you're not even issuing commands to the other person like in a God of War. They're just
Hmm.
doing their thing. Um, so but I don't mind it. Like it doesn't really hurt it like too much. And they have so many I mean, shit, they have so many turn-based Final Fantasies, like a back catalog that you can go back and play if you really want that. Like
Yeah.
you can easily like I have Final Fantasy, I now have Final Fantasy 1 through 10 and 10 too because it came with 10 on my Switch. So, if I really want itching for that traditional RPG, I can go back and play those. So it doesn't really bother me that that's more of an action game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing is like you said, as long as the gameplay is good and the storyline's decent enough to where like I'm interested, then I'll be fine with it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, like you mentioned, a lot of people didn't like 15. It bounced off of them because of the combat and stuff. But you know me, I loved 15. I
Right.
loved
Yeah.
15. So
Yeah, we were kind of oddities in that because like most people did not like 15.
did not like
Even
it
like
at all.
like a lot of the reviewers that I like and stuff, like that I pretty much agree with them on like a lot of stuff. They didn't even like 15, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I get it though. Like some games, like um, friend of the show, Danny, she loves 13, and I don't like 13. Like it's you know, I know. Hey, my
Ugh.
gripes with 13 are solely mechanics, like waiting so long to gate you behind everything. That's my issue. That's all my gripe with 13. Always been my gripe with 13. But
I
yes,
would
it's
say
some
that and it's a little too linear for my liking.
right.
And
That's what I
B,
mean. You're too on rails for like most of the game.
I would also go as far, and I'm probably going to get hated on for this, but I found a lot of the characters in 13 to be meh. You know what I mean? They were not that interesting, I thought myself personally.
I think what happens is when you have gameplay that like when you have an aspect of a game that falls short, it points out other parts that you don't like. So I think because I used to think that too, but then over time I'm like these characters aren't bad. When I see like them in like cutscenes and stuff that I'll just see like on YouTube or on Twitter or something, and it's just like I think it was because the game. And I'm not saying this is the case with you, but I'm just saying I've found this with, like multiple games that like if the story is rough like real rough, it makes me notice gameplay flaws easier because I'm already
Yes.
annoyed with the story, and vice versa. If there's
Mhm.
gameplay flaws, then I'm already in a mood where I'm like looking at the flaws, and then now I'm already looking. So I feel, at least for me, and some of that was the case of that, but yeah, me it was just the fact that it was so linear and it gated you behind like so much of it until like what, like chapter 12, you couldn't even change your party member until then. You like actually like
I
customize
don't
your
know,
party
dude.
members.
I think I played 5 minutes of 13, the original 13, and was
I
like,
played a
this
lot
is
of it.
not for me.
I played a lot of it waiting for it to open up, and it just took forever. Like, that was my problem. Yeah.
Shiva turns into a motorcycle, dude. That's all I'm gonna say. Fuck that shit. That is so dumb.
Okay,
Like, no.
dude. No, that's not the worst thing. Look, Pokemon has motorcycles now. All right. So, you know,
Well,
um,
there you go. Yeah, exactly.
what do you mean exactly? And well, I mean,
It's weird, and it's just not for me.
well, you know what else is weird this week? Actually, it's really not this weird this week, but I guess we can get into it. The news. Like, I'm getting excited every time I say the news now. Um, so speaking of like Pokemon and like weird motorcycle stuff, they had a direct this week.
Yes, they
Um,
did, and you can't say that I didn't do my part because I actually watched part of it this time.
you did. I was like, my man's actually doing his job as a co-host for once.
To be fair, though, most of the time I forget the shit's actually going on to watch it.
Yeah. I'm the one who, like, to be fair, like when we do this thing, I'm the one who kind of gathers up the news, and I'm just like, just play some shit, and we'll figure it out. But yeah, they had a direct, and I watched it. I watched it with a friend of the show, and you know, somebody's been on the show. Watched it with Dustin. A lot of us just staring back and forth with the drop jaws a lot because I thought it was a pretty good direct. Shockingly, I
Yeah.
was not expecting much at all. They showed more of the Pokemon DLC, which I would have to have Dustin on to go really into that. That was kind of what they opened with. They showed Sonic's Superstars, which we can just agree to disagree on that. That looks awful to me. But the big ones, we're just gonna kind of go into the really big ones. Let's see. Let's start with well, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. It is the Metal Gear Solid trilogy and I think a few others coming to Nintendo Switch. Vampire Survivors was huge for me. WarioWare Move It, and then the two biggest ones on this list, in my opinion. Oh, let's do this real quick. They're doing a Mystery Peach game. Gloomhaven's coming to Switch.
Yeah, I saw that.
Uh-huh. I figured you'd like that. I threw that in there for you. But then the two biggest ones on here, I guess we'll get into this one first. Super Mario RPG remake.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, like
Yes,
if I had
sir.
the air horn, sound effect.
Yeah,
Like,
no shot,
let me just
dude.
hit this. I just hit the game sound effect like a bunch of times, but I cut it off, so it was like just going sounded really annoying. Yeah, but what
Dude.
I'm gonna let you go. Like Super Mario RPG is getting a remake, bro. And I don't say bro very often on this podcast, so
this is all I'm gonna say, dude. Like, I got super excited. Like so I didn't get to see the trailer during the direct because I came in at just after that. But Chase messaged me at work and goes, "They're making a Super Mario RPG remake." And then 2 seconds later, before I could say anything, he goes, "And no, this is not a joke.
this is not a drill." Yeah.
So
And then I think you were like, so, do you mean they're porting it or they're actually remaking it? And I was like, no, actual remake. Like,
yeah. And then I was like, well, was it just like, oh, we're doing this, or was it like an actual like trailer? And you were like, no, they actually had a trailer. Yeah. And I was like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah. So I waited until I got my son back, and me and him watched it on YouTube on my phone. And bro, his eyes were the size of saucer plates, dude. He was pumped. I was pumped, dude. I'm so excited. I think it looks good. Me and you were talking. Mario's proportions in the video look a little weird to me, but I don't know. It's fine. I mean, they still have this turn-based stuff. I'm assuming they're going to have a lot of the cool, quote unquote, secret stuff
There
in
you
the
go,
game.
Final Fantasy
So,
fans. You want something turn-based, go play Super Mario RPG. And the best thing
yeah.
is, it's gonna be out this year.
Yeah, November, no less. Yeah.
Yeah.
That got me even more hyped that it's going to be later at the tail end of this year, too. I was just like, yes. Yeah. Yes. Because I own that on my Super Nintendo. And that is one of my, and I don't say this lightly, it is in my top 5 RPGs of all time.
Yeah,
All time.
it's good.
It is so good.
If you've never played Super Mario RPG, you owe it to yourself to play it. Like,
Dude, it gives you everything you want. It gives you the old school, like really good old school Final Fantasy vibes. But then they've taken the Final Fantasy skin off and put the Mario skin on it, and they give you
right.
that kind of lighthearted, goofy Mario humor in there and
It
stuff.
was
Dude, it's amazing.
like how I would say like Pokemon is like the perfect RPG to get your kids into. This was like the perfect RPG to get your kids into before Pokemon existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
dude, I'm so excited for that.
I am pumped.
Yeah.
So pumped.
And then the other big one, which is kind of a surprise, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which was a new 2D entry in like the 2D series. It looks a little different. It doesn't look exactly. It looks like it plays like the new Super Mario Bros. Series, but it looks a little different than the new Super Mario Brothers series. And I'm hoping. I loved the first one or two of the new Super Mario Brothers series games, but then they started making too many of them and they were very uninspired. Like it got to the point to where like you could call it every single time that after the first world, the second world is going to be a desert, then it's going to be like even the world order wouldn't change. Like that's how much the same those games were. So that is my only worry with seeing that, but I mean it looked really cool as far as like some of the suits you're getting. Like I don't know if you saw that trailer for that, but like the elephant suit or like
the elephant suit at the end. Yeah.
And the music seemed really. I don't know how I felt about the music in the trailer. I liked it, but I also don't know if I like loved it. Like,
sure,
it was so like the one thing that I hated about the new Super Mario Brothers, and I'm not the only person that has said this, but the wah. They overuse the wah in the new Super Mario Brothers games.
Oh yeah.
Or no, not even that. It's in the music. Like cuz it was always like, it was always like a musical cue in a song like wah, or like you just hear one. But in the new Super Mario games, it would get to one where like the entire song would just be wah 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 wah, like, and it's just like, no, it's too much. Like too much wah. Chill out. So I'm hoping like and that music started to give me a little bit of those vibes, but it was doing it with doos instead because I noticed it was do 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 do. But I don't know. We'll see. It looks good. And those were kind of the big ones from the Nintendo Direct. Was there anything else that you really want to touch on? I mean, they showed more Pikmin 4, Mario and Rabbids DLC. Yeah.
I see that they're doing a Luigi's Mansion remake also, so that could be interesting.
The Dark Moon, which was the 3DS one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I never really played the Luigi's Mansion games, but I know that they're really beloved, and like I've watched videos of them and they do look fun. I like it because it really leans into that whole like Luigi's a scaredy cat coward kind of humor vibe. You get like Scooby Doo, you know what I mean? Like the Scooby Doo vibe.
Like he's definitely the younger
brother.
He's definitely the younger brother, like for sure.
Other than that, I mean, I was pretty excited to see, like you mentioned, the Pikmin. So that was kind of cool looking. I did see that. I did see the Star Ocean, which kind of piqued my interest a little bit. But as me and you discussed at work, like some of those games have been meh. You know what I mean?
First couple of those games are real good. The rest of them are real not. Like not to sound like. I mean, no, they're just not.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's really kind of it. I mean, the big one that did it for me were the 2 Mario game announcements. I think me and Dustin were a little bit more excited for the new 2D Mario than you were. But after hearing you talk about it now, I can kind of get where you're coming
That's
from.
truly why. Is it's the fact that I've been burned. If wounds could show, I've been burned before.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. It's that kind of like we talk about with Call of Duty all the time. It's literally just the same game every time.
Right,
You know
right.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's my big issue with a lot of games actually, with like Assassin's Creed games, with Far Cry. Now I'm picking on Ubisoft because I have Ubisoft on the brain. Because the next story comes from Eurogamer. And it's Ubisoft. Ubisoft CEO admits underperforming Mario plus Rabbids sequel should have waited for the next Nintendo console. Um, Nintendo has advised that it's better to do one iteration on each machine. So this like just kind of goes on. Eve Guillermo just thinks that they should have waited because the performance. They kind of were a little overly ambitious with the new Mario Rabbids game. Um, but what it got kind of people stirring a little bit, like thinking, well, like, does this mean that like Nintendo
Is
is
making a new console?
it for sure? Because it's been rumored
Mm-hmm.
forever. Like I feel like when everyone says, "Oh, they're gonna announce the next Switch," like on every, I'm just like, who fucking knows at this point? Or if it's even gonna be a Switch, like they might
Right.
this could just be a one and done. Um, but this was an interview that he did with GameThisIndustry.biz. I just picked it up from Eurogamer, but he was like, we already released another Mario and Rabbids game on Switch, so by doing another, we had two similar experiences on one machine. On Nintendo, games like this never die. There are 25 Mario games on the Switch currently, but Nintendo has advised that it's better to do one iteration on each machine. We were a bit too early. We should have waited for the next console. We were a bit too early. So how does that mean? Oh, we were way too early, or just we should have waited and it was coming sooner than rather than later?
Right. Right. Yeah. Definitely makes you wonder.
Yeah, like it always gets you speculating. I mean, this is all just bullshit, pie in the sky. None of us work for Nintendo. Nobody knows anything. But just makes you think that if he's openly talking about it, are they getting ready to maybe say something soon? Um,
Yeah, it makes you wonder for sure. Because I've been saying that for a long time that they're due. They're due for a new console. They really are. I mean, I love the Switch. I still play my Switch, but it's dated. It is getting dated.
yeah, for sure. Um, Next story comes from GameSpot, and it's kind of like got a lot of people thinking, and it's kind of just a great question. This title of the article: could Activision make a Halo game if a merger goes through? Xbox responds. Um, if something like that were to happen, it would have to come from the studios, and that's from Matt Booty, which is the boss at Xbox Game Studios. But it just kind of got me thinking that, like, I mean, wouldn't that be fucking wild? Activision, the guys who effectively, like, let's just be real. Activision killed Halo's grip on the first person shooter in the game. Halo was so big for the longest time, and then Call of Duty came with Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and just crushed it. Wouldn't that be ironic if you started seeing Activision developers working on Halo, since now the future of Halo is kind of, who fucking knows at this point? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know why, but instantly in my head this popped into my head. Call of Duty, whatever number you want to you do it, and then underneath it's Halo Warfare.
Like, have it
I don't know. I don't know why that popped into my head, but that is instantly when you said that, all I could think of was Call of Duty 10, Halo Warfare. Like, and then you know what I mean? And I'm just like,
but then wouldn't it be
that
kind of like Halo
wild?
5? Because Halo 5 started to go in the direction of like introducing more of like a Call of Duty control scheme and stuff like that. And people were so mad. So, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of just talented people that could probably just like work on a general shooter that would probably actually do that franchise some good, I would think. Um, and why wouldn't you share resources if you owned both
Right.
at that point?
Right. Exactly.
staying in the Microsoft block. This comes from Kotaku, but this was everywhere. And this is more of Sony being petty as fuck. PlayStation boss, Sony, Jim Ryan, Sony says it won't share PS6 info with Activision if it's owned by Microsoft.
Yo, petty AF. As soon as I read that, that is exactly what I thought.
So I'm just starting to think, okay, wait a minute. This cannot be the only time in history where like a studio was owned by one of the big console manufacturers, but they've had to know like in advance like what the new box of their competitors had to look like. Like like that is so petty, bro. Like it is like I'm trying to think like right now, but like third party developers even. Like think of like a Rockstar who makes GTA for everything. Like or like on the flip side, like Minecraft, who is owned by Microsoft. I was just like, this is just getting like ridiculous and out of hand, dude. Like, you're gonna go that far to where like you're gonna like not share details like of your next console with Activision Blizzard, who makes like arguably like one of the best selling games year to year, Call of Duty. Let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, that is. I don't even know what to say. It's wild, dude, to me that like
this is getting so petty.
Like there's like when we first started down this road of reporting on this, which has been quite a few episodes now.
Since January.
I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they're gonna go there. And they go there, you know? Like seriously? Like it's just, you know, it's like two little kids when they fight, right? And it's like the one kid goes, you're not gonna be my friend anymore. Like, yeah. Literally what that just reminded me of. Like, wow, you guys are, oh my God.
Oh my God. I didn't include this story in here, but did you also see the other petty thing that I saw in here? Which, I mean, you could argue this a little bit, but Xbox is actually going out there saying that they lost the console wars to convince people to let them buy to convince the courts to let them buy Activision. They're going around literally saying now, like, we've lost the console wars. Sony's been number one for 2 generations now. And like,
oh my God,
like, and like, when we only really took it to them for one, and like Nintendo even does better than us. So that's the other flip side of how petty it's getting. Is like you've got Sony on one end saying, "Well, we won't share our details if you don't." And then you've got Microsoft being like, "We're not even doing that great. What are you talking?" And it's just like this whole thing is just getting so like.
2 elementary school kids having an argument on the playground. That is literally what this has become.
2 elementary school rich kids, mind you. Yeah. Like it's not even. It's like the one got dropped off in his Bentley, the other one got dropped off in like
Rolls Royce.
Like, and they're arguing about who had the better lunch. This is just. Like
he had caviar in his lunch. I only had swordfish. You know, get out of here, bro. Come on.
It's just getting like now. I'm just like waiting now. It's like every week now. I'm like I'm wondering what the new petty thing is going to be coming out.
Yes.
Of, like, yeah. I can't believe I didn't put that story in here, but I did see that scrolling through Twitter. It was like Microsoft says they lost the console war, and I'm like, oh my God, they would never
becoming that juiciness.
They would never, ever say this if they weren't trying to buy Activision and convince the courts. Like, they would never say that. That's like...
It's no longer the console wars. This is the petty wars. Let's see who could be more pettier than the other one each week. Good grief.
And this is kind of piggybacking off of that. This comes from Yahoo Life, but I've kind of saw it everywhere. Xbox is claiming that they have no plans on getting into VR. On the Series X, like kind of like a PSVR ish.
Okay.
Like they said that they would still do like possibly like a mixed reality or something on the PC, but they have no interest in chasing like the PSVR 2. Now, some people were speculating, are they also just saying that because they don't want to say that like they want to because of the acquisition? No, I actually think they're dead serious. I don't think that Microsoft with their games division specifically, I don't think that they could take that on right now while trying to buy Activision. I don't know. What do you think about the prospect of, Microsoft just staying out of that VR, that mid-tier, we'll call it the mid-tier VR space, because that's like your
Um,
PSVR, your Vi, your not like your high-end PC ones, but
Honestly, I think it could be a smart move because honestly, in my personal opinion, I feel like it I feel like PlayStation's been putting a lot into that and they're not getting back as much as they're putting into it. So if Microsoft is truly trying to stay out of it, I think that's probably a smart move on their part because for one, we've talked about a lot the accessibility, right? Like a lot of the everyday Joe Schmo really cannot afford that. You know what I mean? Like that's
right.
why I stay out of that realm because I physically cannot afford, you know, another $500 on top of what I already spent on my PS6 to get PSVR 2 or whatever. Like,
PS5, yeah.
no, dude.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I mean, and like I said, I don't think the interest is there. Like, um, I could see somewhere down the road, like, no, I can't even see that. I was gonna say, what if Microsoft made a VR something that would work on PC and the Xbox? But I don't even see them doing that because then you'd have to make too many compromises to make it like work on both systems. Because a PC you can upgrade infinitely, where a console's a closed ecosystem. You can't. You can't.
Now, if you can make VR like the VR from like, I don't know, Sword Art Online or whatever, okay, then you've got my interest for sure. But until that time, forget about it, bro.
I want, if you can make it like dot hack to where it traps me inside and puts me in a
That's what I'm
coma,
saying.
like that's what I want. No. I don't
Like,
want to
that's what
live
I'm
on
saying.
this reality anymore, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's more where I'm getting at is like that full dive VR shit, you know,
Yep.
dot hack, Sword Art Online, Log Horizon, Overlord. Like until we get to like that realm space, like I am staying away from the VR stuff because it just honestly it's cool, but like I can't justify spending that much money for something like that that I don't find to be really looking like it's that enjoyable.
It's still very much like an enthusiast thing to me.
Yes.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like people who are like, oh, what can I think about it? It was like the people who had like they're really like it's almost like when PC gaming first took off, like people who had their super boutique PCs, like it was like super niche. Like it was an enthusiast thing. It wasn't everybody doing it. It
Oh,
was, you know,
is that you mean kind of like when I built my first PC and I had a quad core processor?
I'm talking before that though, dude, because people were doing it long before us even.
Well,
Like,
I'm just saying, like, I still remember when I built my first PC and I got one of the first quad core processors like ever made.
right.
And my brother's like, you know that no game can really like take full advantage of this. And I'm like, I know.
Right.
And he goes, do you need this? No. But
That's
do I
actually
need
what
it?
they're
Yes.
saying about the 40 series cards right now. The like the 4080, 4070, 4080, 4090. They're kind of saying like that, like it's like, do they perform better? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's like, does it really need it right now? No. Like a 3090
No.
work, a 3080
Yeah.
does just as good. Like I have a 3050 in my laptop, which isn't that great, all things considered, but it does all right. It does the job. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but and then the last little Xbox story, we kind of talked about how Redfall did really bad like a while
Mm-hmm.
back. But Microsoft, you know, I will commend them on this. They say they're not shutting down Arcane Austin. Because a lot of people were expecting that like they shipped that one game and it was a flop and they're gonna shut the studio down. We see that a lot with like EA and like when they buy a studio and stuff. But Microsoft says they're gonna keep them open for at least right now. That's the plan. Is that they're gonna continue to update Redfall and work on their next thing. I don't know. What do you think?
Cool. That's really all I have to say. I mean, that's cool. You know, like you said, most of the time you see it, you know, they buy out X studio, it underperforms, they shit can it. You know what I mean? So they're actually, sounds like they're going to try and give them a chance, you know, so that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, this is actually the last Xbox story, or Microsoft story, kind of, because I'm just counting the Activision stories as Microsoft stories at this point. Um, Activision is shutting down the original version of Warzone in September. Um, you all been living under a rock. Warzone is their battle royale that they launched alongside the reboot of Modern Warfare. They
Yep.
launched Warzone 2.0 with the Modern Warfare 2 reboot. And that's been really successful. People have probably moved on to that. Um, that doesn't really surprise me. I don't know. What do you think of
No,
them? Because
not surprised at all.
I
Freeing up assets.
well, you're
You know
freeing
what I
up
mean?
assets,
It makes
and
sense.
you can't you probably have the same team doing the updates to Warzone 1, and they're also working on the updates to Warzone 2. That just frees up those people to just dedicate full time to Warzone 2.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
instead of
Smart
splitting the
move.
team. Yep.
In my
So
opinion, smart move.
yeah, nothing too big right there, but yeah, I guess if you're a bigger fan of Warzone 1, get to playing it before September. Um, next one comes from Game Informer. Rockstar Games co-founder Dan Houser reveals new studio, Absurd Ventures. If you didn't know, Dan Houser, who was a big lead behind the Grand Theft Auto series and Red Dead Redemption, he announced in 2020 that he was leaving um, Rockstar, and was nobody really knew what he was up to, and then now he's just announced that he's working on this new venture. Um, and it says the studio is focused on quote building narrative worlds, creating characters, and writing stories for a very diverse variety of genres without regard to medium, to be produced for live action and animation, video games, and other interactive content, books, graphic novels, and scripted podcasts. So it looks like he's getting into more than just video games. But I don't know. What do you think about one of the big leads on GTA? Like, I mean, we're talking has been around until GTA
Yeah.
5. Founding their own studio.
Good for him, man. I mean, he's moving on, you know. I mean, it happens. Some people, you know, they stay and stick around doing the same thing forever and ever. But you have people like this now that are like, all right, I've had my fill of GTA. I want to move on to something else. I
Well,
want to
and
do
he's
what
not
I
the
want
only
to
one.
do.
Leslie Benzies left also, who works there.
Mm-hmm.
Laszlo, who's done all the like radio content for them forever, he's gone. So all the kind of like the original people are kind of like just leaving, and I think that'll be a good thing because it'll just bring fresh new people, which also
Yep.
brings fresh new ideas to
Yep.
GTA and Red Dead and things like that.
You beat me to it. I was going to say like a breath of fresh air. Sometimes that
Yeah.
can be really good for a series.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's going to help both because you're going to have Dan Houser working on something that he'll probably be excited to work on for the first time in a while instead of being saddled to making the same style of game that he's used to making. Uh, and then, like I said, freeing up, also bringing up new people and Rockstar. So, um, that's it. We'll have to definitely pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah,
Nothing as
definitely.
far as like what they're working on yet. But I'm assuming he's been working on this, probably getting it up since 2020. Next story has kind of just been all over the place. E3 2024 and 2025 have been canceled. Um,
Shocker.
Not like, especially after how quickly it was canceled this year when everybody just started like when they're like we're gonna have an E3 and everybody just started backing out.
Yeah, not surprised. Not at all.
Yeah, it was just very funny that like they're already like it's like yeah it's no good, guys, it's not happening. Um,
This is no bueno.
Oh, this one I forgot to look up, so let me type it in. Square Enix staff keeps asking about a Final Fantasy VI remake. Um, I forgot to look up this one. I forgot who said it. It's actually
I've
comes
seen
from.
it kind of all
It
over
was
the
all
place,
over.
to be fair.
It was coming from Rock Paper Shotgun. But let's see. It looks like the staff has been asking their brand manager, Yoshinori Kitase, I think is how you say his last name, for a remake. And what would you think if Final Fantasy VI actually got a remake?
Honestly, so 6 you have not played yet, but
No.
it's a fantastic game. So they've now released it as a pixel remaster, which has been received very well from my understanding. All of them have. But to see a full-on remake could be that could be cool. Now, my big thing is, are they going to do a remake like how it looks like they're making the Super Mario RPG remake where it's still turn-based, or if they get the green light, are they going to move away from that? That's kind of where my concerns at. Um, but it's a good game. It's got such a huge branching, arcing, intricate storyline that I mean that could be cool. It could be cool. It could be cool.
Yeah, for sure. I would play the shit out of it. I mean, that's just me. But
Oh, just wait until after you actually play 6. Then you'll
eventually,
understand.
eventually, I've got a lot of work to get through before that. um, last three stories here. This one comes from gamesindustry.biz. And it was kind of a response to a story that I've had all week. There's been a lot of criticism that the Summer Games Fest was lacking a lot of diversity on Jeff Keighley's part. And he kind of just responded with like a "we hear you" response. Basically, this is his exact quote. We also want to be authentic to the games that are being presented on the show and the developers that are making them. So yeah, I think we're conscious of it. Um, that seems kind of like a non-answer answer. And I saw people saying it was like for that entire like 2-hour showcase, they didn't have a single woman on stage, woman developer, and hardly anybody of color. Which like usually, I mean, say what you will, but usually E3 and stuff does like a way better job of like making sure they have like a diverse group of people, like not just white guy A through Z walking up on stage and presenting a game. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And Summer Games Fest, when I went back and kind of scrubbed through it, yeah, there was not a single girl at all. And it was all just, you know, it was a white dude fest. So naturally he got some criticism, and I think he needs that criticism, honestly, as a guy who's now this is his third year doing this. He's always done the Game Awards, but he's never done this specifically. He needs to like take that into consideration when booking a show. I don't know, what do you think?
Um, I mean, yeah, people want to diversify and stuff too, but I wouldn't necessarily completely crucify him because, I mean, think about it. If the people that are making these games, it's not like he's choosing who they send up there to
That is true.
present.
That is true also
So,
because it's on the companies too who they're picking to send to represent. Um,
correct.
yeah,
So, yeah, I wouldn't completely crucify him because I don't feel like that's
not always
entirely his
in
fault.
his in his control. Yeah, that was the other thing I could see.
Hmm.
It was just like, you know, if EA sends me this dude, EA is sending me this guy. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
kind of, you know, um, so, you know, like we say all the time with the games industry in general, maybe it just needs to do better. Um,
Yeah.
with every like, I mean, that's not the only thing. We've talked about a lot of things, but I mean, yeah, it's just, you know, constructive criticism. You know, like, hey, Keely, you know, maybe even mention it next time. You know, try to have like diverse. You got enough clout in the industry now, I think. You know, you're
Right.
hanging out with Kojima and freaking Norman Reedus. I mean, you should be able to be like, hey, you know,
Yeah. A little bit of some pull, you would think for sure.
let's get a little bit of diversity. Last two stories I just threw in here because they're weird. Um, first one,
Speaking of Kojima,
yeah, this one comes from Rock Paper Shotgun. Hideo Kojima wants someone to send him to space so he can make a game to play in space. Um,
that is fucking weird.
which I just replied with, "That is the most Kojima thing I've
Yeah,
ever
I was
heard."
about to say that is
Um,
just Kojima enough.
like didn't you hear that like a while back? Like one of the things that he wanted to do back in the day with, I can't remember what game it was now, but he wanted to make it to where like if you died too many times in one of the games, that the game would actually like catch fire in your disk drive.
Yes. Yes, I do
Yeah,
remember that.
like he
Yes.
wanted like he was just like,
Dude, and everybody blew up about that. I remember
yeah,
that. Yes.
yeah. I mean, and he just like, it reminds me almost of like Yoko Taro with his games, where it's just like when you get to the end of like your final one, he like wipes your save. Um, like things
Yeah.
like that. Like, or like in
I
like Metal Gear Solid, what was it? Metal Gear Solid 1, you had to put the controller in slot 2 to
port
be
two. Yeah.
Psycho Manus, was it?
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, I believe what it was it was along that vein. So what he said, if I'm remembering correctly, was if you had died too much, it would wipe your save file and basically all the data on the disk would wipe. So essentially
you'd have a dead
you
disc.
spend
Yeah.
yeah, you spend like 50 or 60 bucks to potentially just throw it in the trash essentially.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was so. I mean, this is just like, this don't surprise me one bit. Um,
He's a strange guy.
Yes,
Talented, but
he is
out
like
there.
he is like one of the auteurs. Like he's like I say him and Yoko Taro are like the two closest things to like a Tim Burton that we
Yeah.
have in
Yep.
like the video games industry. And then the last story is kind of piggybacking off it. It's really small, comes in Video Games Chronicle. Um at one point, PS3 exclusive Metal Gear Solid 4 was once running on an Xbox 360 and actually running better on an Xbox 360 than it ran on the PS3. Um, I won't go too crazy in this article. It says, despite how downtrodden my colleagues were with developing on PS3, most of them were still hardcore Sony fans and were not in favor of spending the resources on such a test. But one fateful day, Konami R&D team hosted a meeting where we got to see our fruits of our labor, Metal Gear Solid 4 running beautifully and smoothly on an Xbox 360. So if you don't remember, Metal Gear Solid 4, Metal Gear Solid in general has always been a series pretty exclusive to Sony.
Mhm.
Occasionally you'd get like the one-off that would be all over, like I think Rising or like Subsistence was everywhere. But for the most part that was exclusive. Like the mainline numbered ones were exclusive to Sony. Um, but it's kind of crazy to think that they were working on a 360 version at one point and then it got scrapped because essentially there were Sony fanboys. Um,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. It's, I mean, interesting. And that's definitely what it sounds like. It's just like, all right, well, let's just be petty and just scrap it, you know?
Well, and that kind of tells me too when we were talking the other week about like PS3 emulation because they had that weird cell processor in it.
Mhm.
Like the 360 was easier to program on, like at the time, and easier to like they had it running better on the 360 than on the PS3.
Yeah.
Um, which I find that just hilarious. Um, but yeah, that was kind of like the last little story I had. I don't know. Did you have anything?
No, not really.
No. Well, yeah, I guess that's a podcast. I feel like that's my catchphrase at the end of every show now is that's
It
a
was?
podcast. Yeah, that's all I got. Are you going to be getting into anything this week? I saw you've been finally streaming a little bit again. So,
This week, probably not. Friday we've got D&D meeting, so that'll be fun. And then hopefully either at some point this weekend or this coming week, because I want the kids, I want to at least do another stream of Diablo again, probably.
nice. I'm not gonna make any promises because it depends on what happens tonight. But I might be streaming Final Fantasy tonight after this podcast, like later. Like, I
Hey.
might eat some dinner, take a little bit of a break.
Oh,
Oh,
I just remembered something.
yeah.
So actually, one of these times, and I've been talking to my girlfriend about it, possibly in the works one of these days when I stream, I may have her on a stream. So it'll be me and her playing Diablo together.
Nice. Nice. That'll be cool. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do some 16 tonight. If I can't do it tonight, we're gonna probably do it like real soon. Very soon. Because I'm gonna try to record it and also throw it on the Black Box channel.
Yeah,
On the
I
YouTube
want to
channel.
see it. I want to see
Yeah.
it for sure.
Especially now that we're a little bit past the demo. But yeah. Where can they find you, Brandon?
You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/enrage me with an H at the end. Or you can find me on Twitter @enrage me, also with an H at the end.
You can follow me on Twitter at chasing_chase and on Twitch at twitch.tv/chasingchasetv. We are on YouTube and Twitter at _blackboxsignal. And we are on Twitch at twitch.tv/blackboxsignal. And you can email us at blackboxsignalpodcast@gmail.com. And we are pretty much everywhere now. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts sometimes, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. I say that because
random bench in a park in Japan or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, probably at that point. I say Google Podcasts because for some reason they tend to show up 24 hours later than everybody else, but we show up on there. So, yeah. That's a podcast. As always, have a great night and stay safe, comrades. Later.